Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. The connections that have been uncovered by the XRP community having to do with Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman and Joe Lubin and Consensus and Simpson Thatcher and Sullivan and Cromwell. These things, these connections, they're not mere coincidence. And look, it certainly doesn't mean some wild conspiracy theory is true, but it does highlight how government officials are directly and indirectly picking winners and losers in crypto and blockchain. And so, although what we're seeing is not a conspiracy, it's just the way things work, it's worth pointing this out and pushing back against this because government absolutely should not be directly or indirectly choosing winners and losers in the crypto space. And this is what we have been seeing. It's what we've been seeing, and that's why if you want to just be reassured that what you've been seeing uncovered for the last couple years or so by the XRP community doesn't make you crazy, I can certainly help you right there. In fact, the degree to which this type of behavior has been occurring, it's just like on a whole nother level if you understand what I'm about to share with you here, because Jay Clayton's law firm Sullivan and Cromwell is actually the firm that was used even prior to bankruptcy by FTX and FTX US. And it turns out that the top in-house legal guy, the general counsel at FTX US, has a connection to Ginsler. There's too many of these things to just be coincidence. And so again, it's not a conspiracy theory. We're just citing facts here, but it doesn't make any of this okay. And I'm going to share with you what attorney John Deaton had to say about some of this that was revealed today by none other than SBF, that little freaking, oh my God. When articles make me look at that guy's face, it makes me just feel sad inside. I don't like looking at that cucumber-loving son of a bitch. I'm just saying. But wait to see what attorney John Deaton has to say about this. Before going further, though, I do want to be clear, I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I am just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby. And just for fun. And so I don't want to go through the thread that's on your screen right this second, but it's from attorney John Deaton. I've covered it in the past. This is from October of 2021. And in the tweet that's in the middle of your screen right there, he's highlighting that Joe Lubin, who of course is a co-founder of Ethereum and the founder of Consensus, which builds on top of the Ethereum blockchain, he was meeting days before the Bill Hinman Ethereum free pass speech. With them. In fact, here, I'll just read this one tweet. This June 8th, 2018, Consensus meets with SEC again, and Lubin says the market needs the SEC to scare certain projects away. So look, I say this just to point out, and this isn't some sort of crazy conspiracy thing. It was strategy. It was strategy. In fact, in hindsight, and I think it might have been attorney Deaton that said this, if I'm not mistaken. He said, I'm pretty sure it was him anyway, that, Stuart Alderati, who was the general counsel at Ripple and their team, in hindsight, bets that they regret not hiring Sullivan and Cromwell themselves because that seems to provide some sort of protection. If you're wondering in part, why go after Ripple instead of Consensus or any of the ETH founders? Well, they had protection. And so it doesn't mean that there's some sort of conspiracy explicitly to tank Ripple in favor of other technologies necessary. I'm not saying it's quite like that. What I am saying is that there's a way to hire firms strategically for specific connections, which will insulate you from attack from a regulatory agency. That's what I'm saying. That's not some sort of conspiracy theory thing, or to ponder that, or to think that perhaps that might be the case. Because again, with the number of times this keeps happening, it's just like, my gosh, it happens so many damn times, it can't be coincidence. That's why I wanted to highlight this. So, you've got Consensus, which was founded by Joe Lubin. They hired Sullivan and Cromwell, which was Jay Clayton's a law firm. And so I want to highlight this because there's new stuff from SBF today, and then I'm going to share with you what Attorney Deaton had to say, but I want to make sure I properly set the table. There is this from just a few days ago. This is from January 10th, and it's from Bloomberg. This is titled, FTX Bankruptcy Law Firm is Wrong Fit for Role, Senators Say. FTX lead bankruptcy counsel Sullivan and Cromwell, yes, Sullivan and Cromwell again, working with FTX, is wrong for its role because the firm's prior work for the crypto exchange raises impartiality concerns, 4 U.S. senators said. The firm is simply not in a position to uncover the information needed to ensure confidence in any investigation or findings. And that was a quote from a senator. They questioned whether Sullivan and Cromwell could effectively investigate current and former partners who were central in FTX's conduct. Given their longstanding legal work for FTX, they may well bear a measure of responsibility for the damage wreaked on the company's victims, the senator said. And let me go down here to note the following. Oh yeah, here we go. Sullivan and Cromwell said in a response that it has never served as primary outside counsel to any FTX entity. And this is the most relevant portion because it's funny enough, SBF, as you'll see in a moment, he says that Sullivan and Cromwell's lying now, which is interesting. Now, of course, now that SBF ended up getting arrested and he's looking at 115 years in prison. But anyway, check this out. Sullivan and Cromwell said in a response that it has never served as primary outside counsel to any FTX entity. The firm had a limited and largely transactional relationship with FTX and certain affiliates prior to the bankruptcy, the firm said in a statement. A broad team of sophisticated professionals, including conflicts counsel, is advising FTX in bankruptcy, the statement said. Okay, so they're saying, no, we've done pretty much nothing for FTX. Well, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, and I first came across this thanks to XRP community member Stefan Huber. And there's a link to this Substack written by SBF literally today. And I don't want to go through the whole thing here. In fact, there's so many blatant lies in this that it's kind of nauseating to read this thing. So I didn't read the whole thing. But there's a very relevant portion in here having to do specifically with Sullivan and Cromwell. And this is what Attorney Deaton ended up commenting on. So check this out. Here's what SBF had to say. And so he's throwing Sullivan and Cromwell, Jay Clayton's old firm, under the bus here effectively. And it's so not that I trust SBF, because I sure as hell don't, but when it comes to something like this, you got to kind of wonder to what degree is it benefiting him specifically to say this? Well, at this point, it doesn't freaking matter. Because, I mean, he and FTX are now over, you know, SBF and FTX, not going to be a thing ever again moving forward here. But check out what he wrote. Senators have raised concerns about a potential conflict of interest from Sullivan and Cromwell. Contrary to the Sullivan and Cromwell statement that they had a limited and largely transactional relationship with FTX, Sullivan and Cromwell was one of FTX International's 2 primary law firms prior to bankruptcy and were FTX US's primary law firm. FTX US's general counsel came from Sullivan and Cromwell. They worked with FTX US in its most important regulatory application. They worked with FTX International on some of its most important regulatory concerns, and they worked with FTX US on its most important transactions. When I would visit New York City, I would sometimes work out of Sullivan and Cromwell's office. Okay, so a couple things here. I'm going to share with you what Attorney Deaton had to say, but the general counsel, so that'd be the top in-house legal guy, at FTX US was Ryan Miller, if I'm saying that right, R-Y-N-E. I think I'm saying, I don't know, maybe I'm not, whatever. Ryan Miller, though. And so after coming across this morning, Attorney Deaton had the following to say. I know FTX was founded in May 2019, but can someone tell me when the general counsel of FTX US was hired? Was he hired when Jay Clayton was SEC chairman? If so, it's another example of how companies hire the partners of high-ranking U.S. regulators as a way to avoid regulatory scrutiny. And so I did uncover that through a quick Google search here, and I'm not the only one that looked that up. But there's this article also from Bloomberg. This is from August 3rd, 2021. This piece titled, Crypto Firm FTX US Nabs New Top Lawyer from Sullivan and Cromwell. And I don't really feel the need to read the article. I'm just pointing out that it was August 2021 when they hired Ryan Miller as general counsel, snagged him from Sullivan and Cromwell. So there's, again, that connection with Jay Clayton's law firm. But of course, Jay Clayton, he was no longer chair of the SEC. So you might be thinking, oh, well, maybe there is nothing there. There is, though. Check this out. And this is why I wanted to share this with you. And this is pointed out by XRP community member Stefan Huber. He shared this screen grab of Ryan Miller's LinkedIn, and you can see that Ryan Miller actually served as legal counsel to then CFTC chair Gary Ginsler. So that's right. Gary Ginsler is the current chair of the SEC, but don't forget that back then, a decade ago, he was chair of the CFTC. And so again, Ryan Miller came from Sullivan and Cromwell and became general counsel at FTX US. And why do you think he might have been hired? And so all of this is happening. And then you have an outright fraud Ponzi scheme like FTX getting this extra layer of insulation, it looks like, right? Isn't there a reason that these people get hired by specific companies? Don't you think it's strategic based on who they know? That's not some sort of crazy conspiracy theory. That's the way that things seem to work in the world, right? Which is why I also said again, what do you think would have happened if Ripple had hired Sullivan and Cromwell? Maybe in hindsight, we wouldn't be dealing with this. Maybe they would have been insulated because Joe Lubin, say what you will about the guy, he made a good move there, don't you think? And so after this is revealed by Stefan Huber on Twitter that, again, Ryan Miller was legal counsel for Gary Ginsler a decade ago, and now he's going to be working on behalf of FTX US with Gary Ginsler's SEC, attorney Deaton said the following. That makes the point even more so. Who gets sued and who gets a regulatory free pass can't be based on who you hire. Let's face it, that's the way it's been. It's not a free market that's picking winners from the losers. Amen, Brother Deaton, exactly. This is not the free and open market picking winners and losers. This is some incestuous nonsense, and I don't like it. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.